Jack Della Maddalena is the new UFC Welterweight Champion. Now, this is good and bad. It's good because Jack Della Maddalena, super exciting new champion, and Belal Muhammad, boring champion, is now no longer holding the belt. Bad thing because Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria is not going to be happening next, and it's not going to be happening at UFC 317 International Fight Week. Now, there's new rumors floating around about what that main event could be. It potentially might not even be Topuria versus Oliveira. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's talk about the UFC 315 pay-per-view card. I'm Wyatt. This is Fight Society. Now, we'll start with the main card opener, which was Benoit Saint-Denis versus Kyle Prepolek, who took this fight on 4 or so days' notice when Joel Alvarez pulled out. Now, this was complete domination as expected from a ranked, tested, and full camp Benoit Saint-Denis, whereas Kyle Prepolek was actually booked for a short notice fight in a regional promotion prior to this that was booked for actually the same night as this fight. So he was semi-prepared. He took a short notice fight in that one as well. Benoit Saint-Denis was all over Prepolek with the takedowns. 2 submission attempts. One of them ended up finishing the fight in the second round. As you can see right here, 77 strikes to 14. Prepolek honestly just got wet blanketed and submitted. He really didn't have much for Benoit Saint-Denis. I think he landed 1 or 2 solid crosses, but aside from that, really nothing at all to get going. But the good news for him is that he's back on the UFC roster. Benoit Saint-Denis wants Matus Gamrot. That sounds like a fight night main event, or maybe Apex, but it sounds like a fight night main event to me. So good win, but expected win for Benoit Saint-Denis. We move up the card to Natalia Silva versus Alexa Grasso, which ended by decision. And this honestly did not go as expected for me. I thought Alexa Grasso was going to win and then potentially be getting another fight with Shevchenko. But now we have a new contender that's emerged. Natalia Silva absolutely cooked Alexa Grasso. I know the strikes weren't that far apart, 74 to 54, but this was a very one-sided fight, especially for rounds 1 and 2. Grasso did turn up the heat a little bit in the 3rd round because she was looking for a finish, knowing she was down 2 rounds to 0. But she was getting beat to the spot. She was getting countered when she went first. Natalia Silva looked like a #1 contender last night. She absolutely whooped on a former champion. This could be a string of exciting title defenses for Shevchenko. Now, the fight with Fior was not a great fight. She won. It was semi-entertaining, but it was not a great fight. But if Shevchenko's next 2 fights are Silva, possibly a Zhang Weili moving up from 115 to challenge for double champ status, we're going to have a little bit of excitement in the women's flyweight division for once, which is a division that's widely been dominated by Shevchenko for the last 6-7 years. Moving on from there, we had Jose Aldo losing to Ayman Zahabi via unanimous decision, actually, in what some people thought was a robbery. And look, first off, Jose Aldo retired after the fight, missed weight by 8 pounds, obviously seems to not want to be putting up that fight, the internal fight of cutting weight and showing up to fights anymore. He said that himself in the post-fight interview and on Twitter today, but it was 1-1 going into the 3rd round. Mostly exchanges on the feet. Aldo was vastly bigger than Zahabi in the cage that night. They looked like 2 different weight classes. Now, I know people are calling Zahabi robbery because it's a Zahabi in Montreal with GSP in the corner and with Faraz Zahabi in the corner. I get it. I know why people are saying that this is a robbery, especially given that it was 1-1 going into the 3rd round and Jose Aldo dropped Zahabi twice in the first minute and a half of the round. But what followed that is what won Ayman Zahabi the fight. Jose Aldo, when he did not get the finish after dropping Zahabi twice in the 3rd round, essentially quit. He went to his back, he stayed in guard, and he stalled for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Ayman Zahabi kept fighting despite getting dropped. He didn't get stopped. He kept fighting, and he had an absolutely dominating last 2.5, 3 minutes of the 3rd round, landing vicious ground and pound, slicing up Aldo, cutting him with elbows. I actually agree with this decision because Aldo quit in the last 2.5 minutes of the fight, the part of the fight that was going to decide the outcome. So I'm not trying to make a big thing out of it. He retired. It doesn't matter anymore. But I personally do agree with the decision that Ayman Zahabi won the fight, especially with the way he ended it. I thought that the ref, I think it was Dan Miragliotta, he was giving Aldo a lot of he was doing him like a veteran legend favor by not stopping him with those elbows, because Zahabi let off 10 or 15 elbows over the course of a minute. All of them landed very flush, and Aldo was not looking to get up. He was not trying to fight back. He was not playing defense. He was closed guard, overhook, underhook, wrapped around, trying to hang on for dear life to end the fight. So I agree with the decision, as much as a lot of us hate it, as much as Aldo's a fan favorite. And yeah, he lost. That's what I feel about it. That's how I feel. I'm going to do a separate video about it, but I do want to make a note here that Jose Aldo's return to the UFC was fumbled so incredibly badly. He fought 3 names that nobody really cared to see him fight. He fought, and he went 1-2 and retired. He fought Jonathan Martinez, Mario Batista, and now Ayman Zahabi last night. Why did we not get a Dom Cruz matchup? Why did we not get a Henry Cejudo matchup? I felt like there were so many more fun matchups at 35. He was saying that this fight was going to be his last at bantamweight and move up to featherweight. So he didn't even have retirement on his mind really until after the fight. So really mismanaged. It makes you think that maybe the UFC was trying to like get him back for retiring the first time, because he retired. They put him into the Hall of Fame, and then he went and did some boxing match, I think against Anthony Pettis. I can't remember who. And then came back to the UFC. So maybe it was making him pay for that pump faked retirement, but either way, terribly mismanaged UFC return for Jose Aldo. And that's not Aldo's fault. It's the UFC's fault. Moving on from there, we had the co-main event, women's flyweight title fight, Valentina Shevchenko versus Manon Fiorot. As you see right here, strikes were pretty close, 173-50. I had it the same way the judges scored it, 48-47 Shevchenko. Shevchenko finds a way to win fights in just an entertaining enough manner to not lose. Like, she doesn't shoot for the finish. I don't think, except for once at the end of the third, she tried to get that finish with about 5 seconds left and ran out of time. But Shevchenko is one of those few people that doesn't have great finishing instincts most of the time, but still finds a way to make the fight entertaining because she's so dominant, which you don't really see a whole lot in women's MMA, especially right now. You see a lot of, like I talked about Luke Thomas's video, there's an issue with the modern fighter, and a lot of it lies in women's MMA, where you have people trying to outpoint these tiny exchanges over the course of a fight. And it really just feels like nobody won, or somebody barely outpointed the other. Whereas Shevchenko, it's like clear domination when she's winning. Now, this fight was closer and it was pretty entertaining for most of it. Not the best, but it wasn't a total snooze fest. There was actual moments of danger. They were creating damage on each other. There was drama. There was back and forth. So as far as a women's title fight goes, especially in a division that's dominated by Shevchenko, not bad. Overall, not the best card, but, you know, not bad considering how this went. The main event right here, Belal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena. Jack Della Maddalena won 48-47 on 2 cards and 49-46 on another card. I remember watching the fight with my brother last night, and we both had Jack 4-1, even stretching it 3-2 Jack. But there's no argument for Belal to win this fight. Jack Della Maddalena put on a competitive masterclass where the fight was still semi-close. Belal had his moments, but for the vast majority of the fight, Jack Della Maddalena was kind of schooling Belal. And shout out to Belal. I will admit it, okay? I called him boring for so many videos for so long. And he gave us probably the most exciting pay-per-view main event of the year so far, or right up there with Volkan Lopez, because that was a sick fight too. So it was another situation where the card didn't have great name value through and through, but the fights delivered. So let's talk about the main event first. Jack Della Maddalena, just one step ahead in the boxing combos. I mean, it was literally the perfect game plan. He defended the takedowns, and he was throwing first and last, first and third, where he throws first, Belal tries to throw something back, and he counters Belal's attack. So he was throwing first and last, first and third. Many kickboxing, Muay Thai, striking coaches talk about the different phases of attacks. Jack Della Maddalena was doing a great job advancing the attacks, where he would go jab, cross, and then counter with a cross, change angle, and he'd be getting into the third and fourth phase of attacks. Whereas you can tell that Belal was kind of a fish out of water on the feet, because as soon as the takedowns didn't work, Belal had to rely on his Canelo hands. Belal, you can tell, does not have the best striking instincts because it was 1 or 2 pot shots and reset. It was jab, jab, reset. Jab, cross, reset. Body kick, reset. Whereas Jack Della Maddalena was jab, cross, in, out, jab, cross, slip, roll, change the angle, counter. Like, the striking instincts of Jack Della Maddalena are so elite. I'm excited to see him in a fight with somebody like Ian Gary because Belal Muhammad was typically a boring fighter, and JDM brought a fight of the year type of fight out of Belal. Split lip, cut everywhere. JDM's the guy right now, okay? Now, of course, we're going to see Islam Makhachev challenge JDM next. That's pretty much promised. Although it's not announced, it's pretty much promised. But JDM can bring the fight to these guys that are boring because he's so on the front foot making things happen. I want to see him versus Ian Gary. Him versus Shavkat Rakhmonov would be like a technical car crash kind of because they're both very, very forward fighters. I want to see JDM and Joaquin Buckley. I mean, even aside from the Makhachev fight, there's so many high-level fights. Usman, even if he beats Buckley. There's so many high-level fights. 170's taking over as the best division in the sport right now, especially because the stars at 155 are all kind of on their way out, minus Topuria. Oliveira, Gaethje, Poirier, Holloway, I'd say all those guys got 2 years left max, and then Islam's leaving the division. So JDM, fantastic boxing. He has basically his jiu-jitsu coach, Craig Jones, has found the antithesis to Dagestani Sambo style wrestling. And here you can see Jack Della Maddalena with his team, jiu-jitsu coach right here on the far right, Craig Jones, saying Sambo and wrestling once again proved to be fake at Islam Makhachev. And that's in reference to Craig Jones being the jiu-jitsu coach for JDM in this fight and for Volk in the very first Volkanovski versus Makhachev fight, where the grappling was defended great by Volkanovski. He even reposted an MMA Guru tweet that said, at this point, everybody has to accept Craig Jones has figured out the answer to Dagestan grappling. It cannot be a coincidence at this point. Volkanovski against Makhachev, JDM against Belal. I guess JDM versus Makhachev will answer it for good. People are relishing in this Belal Muhammad loss because here's Rob Whittaker, nice guy to everybody, relishing in the Belal Muhammad defeat.
I don't think so. He said, I'm not leaving Montreal without that belt. Does that mean he lives in Montreal now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, dude, big change. Big change.
Far out, Rob.
Different winters there, dude.
So even the nicest guys in the sport are happy with Belal losing and, you know, taking advantage of the opportunity to make fun of Belal. So we have a new champ. All right. We have a new welterweight champion, and he's a very entertaining fight style. I've been talking about the problem with modern fighters recently, and Jack Della Maddalena is a complete 180 of that problem. Striking and grappling, entertaining, finishing ability on the feet and the ground, not afraid to take the fight to somebody, not afraid to mix it up in the 5th round, even though he's already got the fight in the bag. All right. Sick fight. Obviously, we're not getting to Topuria Makhachev now, but we got some other big fights. We'll talk about that in another video. Let me know down below your thoughts on JDM versus Makhachev. Most likely going to happen September in Australia. Like, subscribe. Did you like this video? Then like and subscribe down below. I also do multiple live streams per week, along with behind the scenes content and members only live streams for our channel members. So become a channel member for access to bonus content. It's only $5 per month, and it greatly helps the channel's growth. I also do a podcast with my best friend Bo, and I have a non-MMA channel as well called Wyatt's World. You can check both of those out linked below.